President Donald Trump faces deep challenges on international and domestic issues alike, with the job approval rating mired in historic lows, a broad sense he's done more to divide than unite the country, and a high level of public distrust that he'll act responsibly in dealing with North Korea. Views on North Korea underscore trepidations about Trump on the global stage. Even as a record number of Americans see North Korea as a threat, the public by a wide 62 to 37% does not trust Trump to act responsibly in handling the situation. Compare that with trust in U.S. military leaders, at 72%, it's about double the level of trust in their commander-in-chief. But Trump faces equal difficulties at home. His approval rating is the lowest of any president at 8 months in office in polling back 71 years. The public by 66 to 28% says he's done more to divide than to unite the country, considerably worse than the highest divide scores for his two predecessors, Barack Obama and George W. Bush, both 55%. And despite his drain the swamp promise, Americans by 59 to 39% say Trump has not brought needed change to Washington, 6 percentage points more than Obama's worst rating on this gauge, which came after nearly 2 years in office. Approval ratings. 8 months in, 39% of Americans approve of Trump's performance in office overall, while 57% disapprove. Both precisely match his average ratings in 4 ABC News/Washington Post polls since he took office. His approval rating remains the lowest for any president at this point in polls dating back to Harry S. Truman's presidency. Strong critics of Trump, moreover, far outnumber strong supporters, by 48% versus 26% in this poll, produced for ABC News by Langer Research Associates. That 22-point gap is the same as Obama's career worst. But the average edge in negative intensity throughout Obama's 2 terms was just 6 points. It's averaged 21 points to date for Trump. There is differentiation in Trump's approval ratings on individual issues. On immigration, just 35% approve, and 62% disapprove. On the economy, his approval advances to 43%, with 49% disapproving. And his ratings turn positive when it comes to handling the recent hurricanes that struck the United States, 56% approve, 31% not. Hurricane response ratings are a notable bright spot not just for Trump but for the federal government more broadly. It gets a 70 to 24% positive rating for its hurricane response, a result that suggests lessons learned from Hurricane Katrina in 2005. About 2 weeks after Katrina hit, just 38% of Americans approved of the federal response, and 62% disapproved. That said, positive views of the federal response were somewhat higher, 78%, among likely voters, immediately after Superstorm Sandy hit the northeast coast in 2012. And negative views are 19 points higher now than after Sandy, with fewer unsure. Regardless, the hurricane response ratings are a clear positive for Trump and the government. So, too, is response to the Trump/Democratic agreement to fund disaster relief while also raising the limit on the national debt. 65% support it, on an unusually bipartisan level including 77% of Republicans, 67% of Democrats and 62% of independents. North Korea. A record 84% of Americans now see North Korea as a threat to the United States, and 70% see it as a serious threat. Both have been high, but not quite this high, in 4 ABC/Post polls since 2003. While Trump is seen as a wild card as noted, 62% don't trust him to handle it responsibly. That's even more so for North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. 89% don't trust him on the issue. Tougher sanctions are by far the preferred approach in dealing with the situation, with 76% support. Backing for other responses falls below half, 43% for discontinuing joint U.S. South Korean military exercises, 39% for airstrikes on North Korean military targets and 32% for offering North Korea financial incentives. Showing a hardening of attitudes, support for offering North Korea aid or trade incentives to give up its nuclear weapons has fallen sharply since tensions last were this high in 2005, from 51% then to 32% now. Concurrently, support for a U.S. strike on North Korean military targets has grown sharply, about doubling from 20% in 2005. Still, however, 67% say any U.S. strike should be retaliatory only, while just 23% favor a preemptive attack. A central reason is that 82% think a U.S. first strike could risk starting a larger war in East Asia, 69% see this as a major risk. Compared with 12 years ago, the rise in support for airstrikes is broadly based, excluding younger adults, under 40, and liberals. It's up 34 points among Republicans and 21 to 27 points among conservatives, adults age 40 and older and political moderates. Declines in support for aid or trade incentives, while again broadly based, are largest among Republicans, conservatives, and whites, down 29, 26 and 25 points, respectively. Trump. There are wide if now customary gaps in Trump's ratings, and not only political and ideological ones. His overall approval rating is 16 points higher among men, 47%, than women, 31%, and among Americans age 40 and older, 45%, versus those younger than 40, 29%. There also are sharp differences moving from rural to suburban to urban residents, 54-41-28% approval. He has 42% approval among those who aren't college graduates versus 29% among those with postgraduate degrees. Among the largest divisions, 49% of whites approve versus 19% of non-whites. And within the white population, Trump's approval rating ranges from 66% among non-college white men to 31% among college-educated white women, key voting groups in the election that brought Trump to power. Trump's 77% disapproval among non-whites matches its previous high in April, and the number who disapprove strongly, 65%, is a new high. He's at a new low among conservatives, albeit one of his best groups, at 65% approval. His approval rating from liberals, a mere 9%, matches its low, while he's gained ground among moderates, to 36% approval now versus 27 and 28% in two midsummer polls. Notably, Trump does less well, even in his higher support groups, on the question of whether he's done more to unite or to divide the country. 61% of men say he's done more to divide the country, as do 58% of older Americans, 50 and up. In this case, 62% of those without a college degree, nearly half of the rural population, 64% of suburbanites and 55% of whites, as well as 4 in 10 conservatives and 3 in 10 in his own party. Now News. is your place to be in news. Please like and share and subscribe.